what you're all here for. If you're not, you can leave. Okay. All right. So bear with us a little bit. It's been a while since I've run a meeting, and it's been a while since I've been in a meeting because we haven't had some for quite a while here. So first up is roll call. Going down the line here, Michael Costello, John Beckett, Dave Thompson, Jeremy Chubbuck, Judd McIntosh, Krista Swinster are in attendance, and Dave Thompson will be leaving at 8 o'clock tonight, a little bit early. And we want to nominate Michael as a voting member tonight.
I'll make a motion. Second.
All those in favor? All right, you're in. Congratulations. All right. Next item is acceptance of the agenda.
Move for it. Second. Seconded.
All those in favor? Accepted. All right, approval of minutes, May 15th.
I move we accept the minutes.
Second.
Damn, all those in favor?
So I wasn't
here either.
vote because I wasn't there.
Correct. It was, I think everyone else can vote. All those in favor? Right?
Is that enough?
Good.
Is 4 enough?
Yes.
For the
It
minutes.
is? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
All right, we have two items under new business. The first is a minor site plan review application by the Orono paddlers to locate a canoe storage structure at Brownies Park. So the first step in this process, why don't you come on up and tell us all about it? Jeff? Yep, to the microphone, please.
So my name's Eric Gallant. I'm a professor at the University of Maine and vice president of the Orono Paddlers. So Orono Paddlers is an organization of community members that started in 2015, and our primary mission is to promote paddling sports in the community. So getting people out on our rivers, both recreationally and racing. And one of the most popular events that we started right off was a Thursday night sort of community racing, fun racing series where we would bring in these war canoes that the Penobscot River Keepers have, and then other people would bring their boats, and we would just get lots of family, friends, people paddling out on the river, doing fun races or kids races, things like this. Those, what we're proposing is to build a timber-framed canoe storage building. It would be not really a building, but an open-sided structure. So it'd be opened on all sides, constructed out of timber frame with cedar shake roofs, with a cedar shake roof that would be tucked back in the corner as you walk down the path to get to Browns Beach. The reason to do this is that these large boats that we use that are so effective at getting beginning paddlers out are incredibly heavy. It takes 8 of us on each side to move these things up and down. And by having something that can store these larger boats, we would be able to do programs with much fewer number of adults present, fewer people to get these boats down to the river and get them back. It just makes the whole thing way more convenient. We've had, on these Thursday night series, we've had as many as, I would say, 65 or 70 people participating. So 5 or 6 full war canoes, and as well as a dozen or more tandem boats and single boats. So it's been a really awesome way to connect, bring university students out, members of the community, and we want to expand that programming. We think it's a great way to introduce people to the river by getting them in these big boats. You can get 2 or 3 Orono paddlers, people that know how to navigate them, and then you basically give the other people paddles and life jackets, and you can bring your whole team from work, or a team or a group of people from Dirigo Pines, or a group of school kids. And it gets people out enjoying our waterways. So that's pretty much the overview. The idea is to try to facilitate something so that the volunteers in our organization can make this happen more often. Something that would be beautiful along the river. So, we're not looking to just put up a 2x6 set of boards. We want, we're going to raise money till we can afford to do something that looks nice. So we've got the plans we submitted were a timber frame with a shake roof. So yeah, that's kind of the overview.
All right, the next step is we're going to actually have Kyle give us a summary, okay? So we're done with you for now, but might call you back up.
Sure. So diving into, just expanding off of kind of the purpose from the paddler's perspective to the purpose from the town's perspective, there was a license agreement reached between the town and the paddlers that gave the paddlers permission to operate the canoe storage at Brownies Park. It wasn't really location specific, but the council identified that the comprehensive plan, one of the recommendations in the plan was that we use the rivers in town for recreational facilities more and have more opportunities like that. So the town council saw this as an opportunity to create an agreement with the paddlers and then gave them right title or interest, which is a condition of site plan approval, is the applicant needs right title or interest to use the property. So it's a revocable license agreement. Either party can, opt out of it at any time with proper notice, but it allows the paddlers to operate as long as they, maintain the structure, in the correct fashion. So that decision was made a couple months ago. So then moving forward, with our kind of, what we're looking at tonight is whether or not the structure in the proposed location meets all the conditions and standards and zoning requirements laid out in the ordinance. So kind of first, just to run through the report and kind of touch on some highlights. The structure itself would be considered an accessory structure to a recreational facility if you go by our normal land use table. If you look at the shoreland zone land uses, because this property the lot is within the medium density residential zoning district, but it's also within the limited residential district of the shoreland zone. It's considered a recreational facility with a minor structure or something to that effect in the shoreland zone. In both cases, it requires site plan review, but it is an allowable use. The structure would be, roughly 432 square feet, open structure, as mentioned before. The town so the location of it would be sort of in between and behind the existing monument and large tree already at the park, in an area that was previously kind of unmaintained by the town. So I think for some time coming, the town had already been preparing to sort of clear out this area to make it more usable and accessible as a part of the park. So some of that work has already been done just for, as, part of the town's plan anyway. But this, structure would then slot into that area, where some of that clearing has been done. Moving on to, the dimensional standards, the park, the lot is nearly 4 acres. So it more than meets the minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. It has, more than enough road frontage, and the structure would meet all the setbacks of the medium density residential district. The one big thing to look at with this is because it's in the shoreland zone, the structure has to be 75 feet back from the normal high water line, which it is. I believe the paddlers marked on the plan that it would be 84 feet back from the river. There are no prominent wetlands or vernal pools or other natural features right in that area that would be of concern. In fact, our Parks and Rec director is here. had noted that it would actually help aid in the removal of some invasive plant species that have been there. So again, kind of the project kind of goes into helping a situation that the town probably would have had to do to begin with. From a drainage and erosion control aspect, there isn't, the area there is mostly level, and some of the clearing has already been done. So a lot of that work won't have to be done before the structure is put up. Rob Yerxa, the Public Works Director, commented that there's no prominent issues with any drainage or runoff becoming more of a problem because of the structure being put in. As far as lighting and signage goes, the applicant didn't make any proposals to add in anything like that. There would be no utility usage. It's a pretty minor impact outside of just placing the structure itself. As far as traffic and parking, the paddlers already run various programs there. There's the existing parking area. And obviously it's a public, recreational facility. At any time, any number of people could be there for any sort of event. So there's no, there's really no proposed use here that would add any more traffic or negative impacts from that regard that already exists. I think that pretty much summarizes everything. Up for any questions or comments?
Yep, thanks, Kyle.
Yep.
So now we'll, comments, questions from the board for Eric, Kyle?
Yeah, I think this is a very good step forward. It gets children outside, away from computers. The average person in this country spends 11 and a half hours a day looking at a screen. So anything like this that gets them out, I think is very good. I have 4 canoes myself, and I've been using them for probably 50 years, and I really think this is a great thing to do. I'm fully behind it.
Anyone else? Michael?
I also think it's a great idea. Are you worried about vandalism or anything down in there?
But if you could go up to there, please, thank you.
Yeah, so the question is, are we worried about vandalism? And yeah, I think that's just part of doing something out in the public. I will comment, we sort of started this project back in 2016. I just found my daughter's first rendition that we gave to the city manager, and so we then had to raise money to get insurance. And anyways, we're quite committed to trying to make this work. So we have, volunteers and resources within our budget to handle those sorts of repairs. So I don't know, it's probably part of just, you guys know, you put something up for the town and somebody's going to tag it or do something, and you just, I guess we hadn't thought of it as something that would prevent us from going forward with it.
The second question is, will your boats occupy the entire building?
Right now it's, so the footprint is 24 by 30. And again, just for the reason to do this, it might not be obvious if you just own a Discovery canoe that you leave out behind your garage, but these boats are made out of composite materials, so they have to be under protection from the sun. If they stay out in the sun, they get destroyed. I should have probably mentioned that. So right now we have 2 of those large boats that would occupy part of it, and then 4 other ones. So right now it would take up about half of it.
I'm just thinking of someone like myself who's too tired to haul their keys back up to the road. What would prevent someone from just hauling it into your building and coming back to pick it up later?
Yeah, I don't think, other than us kind of kicking it out, I think it's the same as if you drug it down and chained it to a tree like some people do along the walkway there. But the spirit of this was really not for us to have like a town facility that would collect a bunch of old plastic canoes, but rather this is really to facilitate this active programming. So there might be some times when, for example, we've talked about having some summer programming related to stand-up paddleboarding, in which case then we would move the large canoes to other storage and move in the stand-up paddleboard for a series of programs that might be related to that.
Perfect. I wish you well.
So you mentioned, I have a quick question. So you mentioned earlier that you're fundraising for the construction of this building.
Well, I mean, yes.
Are you also fundraising, as part of that, are you also fundraising for an endowment for maintenance of it and potentially removal of it if the lease disappears? And also, is there any guarantees that the town won't become financially responsible for it?
We have not thought about, we haven't done any sort of forecasting for what the maintenance would be on something like this. I mean, I think it would, you would know better than I, but I'm guessing that those cedar shakes are at least 20 years. So we would think about adding that to the fundraising. So it's a good point. It's not something that we've had discussions about. In terms of the responsibility for removal of the structure is on us. In terms of what that would cost, I don't have a number for that. I'm guessing that we would, it would be a nice timber frame. I think we could get rid of it on Craigslist for free if we had to do that. There was one other part?
Well, just the concern that the town may somehow inherit a financial responsibility for
I
it.
think that's in the agreement that once, if either of us terminate it, then we have to deal with it. And we have, I think, 40 or 60 days to deal with it. So that's in there. Yep.
I just make the comment, if you want, you could make a condition of approval that there be some sort of maintenance agreement drafted before the code enforcement officer issues a building permit or something to that effect.
So right now, the agreement is that they get inspected once a year, right? There's an annual review
Correct.
of the structure.
Yes. And if there's any, there's the, section about damaging property that the group will maintain its structure in the surrounding area. So to your point about, other people using it for canoes, if, there were just canoes lying around there or being used when they weren't supposed to be, then I would say that kind of falls under the agreement as part of maintaining that area in more of a neat fashion and kind of only utilizing it for its intended purpose.
Any other comments or questions before I open it to the public?
Using pressure treated lumber.
We haven't got to that point, but I'm guessing no. I don't think most timber framers would do pressure treated lumber, but that's a detail that I don't have.
Screws or deck screws or that type of thing.
I think it would be pegged like in a classic timber frame style, setting on then some sonotube post or something. But again, this is a few.
Taking it down depending on how it's built. Somebody, you had to get rid of it, somebody probably take it down for the material.
Yeah.
You like that. It shouldn't cost you down.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Now we're going to move on to the, open it to the public for comments. It's open. So if you have anything you'd like to say or share, feel free to come up to the microphone, state your name, please, and then say your piece.
Go first, all right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, hi. My name is Rick Pare. I live on Sunrise Terrace. So we're sort of a neighbor to Brownies Park there. Okay. Been here 44 years, retired psychology professor from the University of Maine. I own SI Associates Property Management, and I also own Main View Apartments down the road here. I too want to increase the use of the riverfront there. It's great what you've been doing. I see lots of action there, and I love it. So that's very good, and I congratulate you on that. However, I'm going to be a little thorn here, if that's all right. First of all, normal protocol is for the town council when they have an open meeting such as this one, is to send these things, which you did. So thank you very much for doing that. When the public hearing was announced for the issuing of the license, you called it, is that what you called it? The license for the
License agreement.
license agreement. Never did I receive anything like this. So, I would have attended that meeting if there had been. So I really feel bad that I could not attend that meeting because I wasn't notified of that meeting. But the biggest thing that I'm concerned about is the natural beauty of that park. I mean, you go down there, you look around, what do you see? Beautiful trees, shrubs and water and people laying there and using it for canoes and kayaks and the boats you were talking about. And it's such a nice thing. And all of a sudden now, with the structure that's going to go up, we're going to see a big building. I just wish there was another alternative than to a big structure that's 20 by 30 feet that's going to start to make it commercial instead of recreational. So I don't know, it's just the fact of changing it and making it that I'm opposed to. Not more activity down there, because I love that. But I just don't want to see a building there. Okay?
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. I do want to make something clear. So this board, we essentially we look at things in a black and white way. We have a town ordinance, and each of these projects that come before us, it's just a checklist. It's yes, you pass, yes, you meet the ordinance, or you don't. Yes, no.
Correct.
If there's no's, then we can, make a decision. But otherwise, if it meets all of the ordinance, then we have to
Correct.
approve.
And that's why I say I don't know why we didn't get notified of all of this until this very moment.
So the abutters notice which you received there is only required for the planning board. It's not required for public hearings through the council, and the license agreement actually didn't require a public hearing because it's a revocable license. And therefore, I believe it was just agenda item at a normal council meeting, which requires the normal sort of postings on Facebook or the town website, but no actual card is in the Penobscot Times, but it's not actually sent out on a card like that to abutters like the planning board meeting is.
That's really a shame, and that's why I think the planning board deserves a lot of credit for doing it this way, so that we can find out about it. Because not everybody is computer literate. I mean, I am, but not everybody is. Not everybody gets the Penobscot Times. Not everybody goes on the town website. So we're in the dark as far as what's being built around town, and that's why I'm here, because this is the first time I've heard about it. But anyway,
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Yes. Please.
I'm Fiona Sorensen, live in Orono, and I'm the treasurer of the Orono Paddlers. I certainly understand your concerns, and we talked to a lot of people, and the actual people that are members of Orono Paddlers is not huge, but the number of people that have been involved in meetings and we talked to is pretty large. And we talked to our friends and we talked to neighbors and so on about it. And this concern about what it looks like comes up right away. And we're very much committed to making sure that we don't put up something that people like, oh my gosh, what's gone down there? So one of the things we're doing is so that when you're going past on the road, you'll barely see it because it's tucked right into the hill. So you'll still, when you go past on the road, you'll say, oh, look at the river and Browns Park, and it will look pretty much the same. You'll maybe have a glimpse of the wood roof, but not very much more than that. And then bear in mind that when you're down there, because it's only a roof and a timber frame, it's not like having a real building. It's a shelter. And so I really don't think, obviously when you're used to a place and it's beautiful, and the river path is one of the fantastic things about our town. Since I first moved here with little kids, I've loved walking and riding along there and paddling from there. And it's difficult to think of change when you love a place. But I guess what I'd compare it to is this will have less impact on what Brownies Beach looks like than putting in that launch area with the rocks. It will be prettier than that. So that's all I can say. We have really thought about it. I understand your concerns, but just in order to get more people out there and reduce the danger. It's kind of, I don't know whether anyone's driven past when we've had these Thursday night events, but it's a bit of a zoo on Bennett Road, and eventually someone's going to get hurt. So if we can have at least the big boats down by the water, it's going to make it a lot safer for the people involved.
Thank you. But anyone else? Okay. And please state your name.
Hi, I'm Ann Lichten-Molnar, and I am also a professor at the University of Maine, associate professor in School of Food and Agriculture. And we own the house that's just above Brownies Park on Noyes and Bennick. And so this, we heard about that. We love the paddlers. We think this is really cool. We heard about this some time ago when it was in the early planning stages, and we were like, okay, let's see what that's going to be like, because I share the concerns about changes along the river trail. I love the river trail. I use it a lot. I do agree that this makes sense to me in that it's tucked away. And that is land that, you guys just went up and cleared, the town went up and cleared that just the other day as far as cutting back the vegetation. But the vegetation has grown very wild and rank in that area for a long time. And so this will actually, anything will help control some of the invasive plants that are in that area. I really think that, I hope that, and I trust that it's really not going to adversely impact the experience of being down there at Brownies Park. That matters a lot to us because it's not just what we look at every day, but it's right where we live. It's where our house is. If we go to sell our house at some point, it may affect the resale value. There are a lot of different things that would affect our feeling about it. But we also have appreciated over the years what the paddlers have done. And I personally have a group of 10 students at the university this summer that are here for a program, and I'm going to really push them to kind of join in with paddlers. I think this is a really nice thing that they do. So if this is helping, I think that on balance, I had to swallow a little bit hard to think about having a building go in there, but on balance, I think done in the way that they propose to do it, that it'll be an addition and not a detraction. So, we're right there. It's in our front yard. So, I think it's a good thing. I will add one thing, and that is that one thing the town might want to consider at some point, and I've not contributed to this at all in any way, shape, or form, but possibly rerouting the way that you walk from the Brownies Park parking lot down to the water might be something to consider, because everybody with boats gets out of their car, walks back up to Bennick, carries their boat along Bennick for a little while, and then ditches down that trail, which is also a bit of a water course in wet seasons. It might be a good idea to just put a trail that goes from the parking lot itself, parallel to the river in some way, shape, or form, and down to this area. So that might make life easier as well.
I can answer that. The Orono Trail Committees have looked at that several times, and I've also walked with it with Rob Yerkster. And I think it's probably the time that we'll do that. It's been talked about before, a couple of years ago.
Not surprising.
I think it's a good idea. I've
Yeah.
looked at it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Lyons, and I am the owner of the house of 77 Bennick, which is literally like right above Brownie Park. And I think at one time that property was part of the parcel that I own way before me. I guess I am just surprised that the first I'm hearing about this is through a postcard, and I think that's more on the Orono paddlers. I was a rower through college. Paddling is, I'm really happy that we have this program. I just wish as an impacted resident, like very impacted resident, that I just would have been able to have been approached, or some sort of material would have been made public. I don't even know what this is going to look like. It sounds like it's going to be beautiful, or as beautiful as a structure like this can be. I think you're doing a good job in trying to design that. I just wish that there would have been a vehicle to find out about that, some sort of public relations or mailer or knock on the door, because that would have been nice to know about versus coming here and hearing it, because it sort of feels like it's a done deal at this point. So that's just my piece. I like the what it does to the town. I'm mother of a young child, so I will benefit from this, but just the way that it happens doesn't feel great. So, and how tall will this be? Because I am a little worried that we actually will see it.
16 foot 8. And we haven't, I went down with some,
Could you go up to
sorry.
speak
We'll
if
switch.
you
Thank you.
answer the question?
So the question was, how tall is it? And it's 16 foot 8 feet to the peak. And it's a little hard to judge. Somebody suggested that we make a rendering of what it looks like from the road, and that's beyond my PowerPoint skills. So it's when you're standing right there. Anyways, it's hard to judge what that peak is going to look like right from the road or what right from your house. But it's certainly something we could look at. And I also don't know I don't know enough about the engineering for the snow load to know if it could be slightly less peaky. But that's certainly something that we could look at. But certainly the intention of it in the location was that it wouldn't have a view impact. Again, it's hard for me to visualize what that's going to be. So 16 feet 8, and that bank cut there is, I don't know, 12 feet or something. Yeah.
Could you repeat your question?
So the question is, how far from the monument? It's the monument. If your back is to the river, the monument's on the far left corner. This would be as far to the right as possible. So it'd be right as you walk down the little path there, it would be immediately to your right.
If you have a question, come on up and ask the question in the mic.
Could we surround it with greenery, trees?
Come up to the
Can you-
podium to ask the question.
Yeah, if you could come
You have
to the
come
mic.
up to the podium to ask the question, just so it's on record and it's being
You
recorded.
don't have to
and
walk away
streamed.
if you don't want to, because you'll have to answer the question. Sorry. The logistics.
I was just kind of wondering if we might be able to surround it with greenery, like fast-growing pines or something that could hide the thing. 3 sides could be shaded with kind of shrubbery or something. It's just a thought that I had right then.
Yeah, I mean, so anything's possible with the consent of the town. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the back side is already the bank, and
But that's what you'll see from the road.
well, you only see that from the road if you're standing right there looking straight down, because that's a very nearly a steep bank in terms of that part. I mean, what you'll see from the road more is going to be the far end of the roof. But again, we'd have to go mock up something with some sticks to exactly see what that would look like. In terms of planting stuff, yeah, I mean, we could plant anything that the town wanted to have planted down there. I don't think that's something that we can do.
So, I mean, a buffer would not be required by the ordinance here, but the planning board could, make it a condition that a certain side of the structure have some level of plantings to blend it in more with the existing landscape.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're you're open to talking about it. It's one of those things where I'm not sure if you're going to go buy 12-foot pines and plant them there. I don't know if,
It's certainly not required by the.
We're not doing this for personal gain.
right, no, yeah.
We're doing this because we think it's going to make our town a better place. And part of that is being good to our neighbors. I completely agree. And I'm sorry we didn't approach you. To be honest, it's, anyways, it's just the problem of a volunteer organization. You do your best and we didn't do that. I'm sorry.
All right, the public hearing is still open. Any other questions, concerns? Yep. Come right up and state your name, please, and your question.
I'm Bob Rourke. I've been living on Sunrise Terrace since 1964. My only problem is parking. Fenwick Road is a busy road. That parking lot is really not too large. And I think it should be evaluated or expanded, if you will, to accommodate 60 people with their vehicles. Other than that, that's no problem.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right. I'll keep the public portion open. Any more board discussion, questions, things you'd like to talk about? Okay.
I don't have any.
Nope. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Next step is the finding of fact. So this is when we go down through the ordinance one by one and speak to each of them, sir. All right, I'm going to read this in for the record. Proposed findings of fact, Orono Paddler site plan review, June 19th, 2019. Pursuant to Article 6, Section 18-177 of the Orono Code of Ordinances, the Orono Planning Board has considered the application of Orono Paddlers for the construction of a canoe storage structure located at Tax Map 19-4, Lot 61, in the medium-density residential district, and based on all evidence presented by the applicant, reviewing agencies, town departments, and the public, found the following. 1, requirements of the district, that the proposed use is an allowable use in the medium-density residential and limited residential shoreland zone districts, and will be located on a legally conforming parcel in a manner such that the structure meets the requirements of the district. Okay. 2, compliance with town ordinances and codes, that the proposed use, structures, setbacks, buffers, and layout meet the provisions of applicable regulations of the town, including all pertinent sections of Chapter 18 of the Land Use Ordinance. 3, utilization of the site, that this construction is within the natural capabilities of the site, is located in a suitable area of the site, does not disturb environmentally sensitive areas, fits with the existing topology of the site, and can accommodate any drainage associated with the construction. 4, traffic and pedestrian access, that the use will not add any significant traffic that does not already exist, and that the use will be accessible off of the trail located by the river. 5, storage of materials, that there will be no exposed storage on the site beyond the equipment being stored as part of the use. 6, stormwater management, that the structure will not create any substantial impervious surface cover that would result in stormwater runoff concerns. 7, erosion control, that the Public Works Director found that there will be no potential erosion concerns, and that the applicant will provide a plan for any erosion control if needed during construction that meets best management practices before the code enforcement officer issues a building permit. 8, water supply and sewage disposal, that the use does not require any water supply or sewage disposal. 9, utilities, that the structure will not need any access to any utilities. 10, natural features, that clearing will be limited to the area in which the structure will be placed, and that the use will result in further maintenance of areas that are currently not maintained. Right, 11, groundwater and surface water quality protection, that the site is within the town's aquifer recharge overlay district, but that the proposed use is not one of the prohibited uses listed. All right, hazardous, special, and radioactive materials, that the use of the site does not involve handling, storage, or use of hazardous, special, or radioactive materials. 13, shoreland relationship, that the proposed structure is within the limited residential shoreland zone, but meets all required setbacks and is an allowable use in the district. 14, solid waste management, that the proposed use will not need solid waste management. 15, historic and archaeological resources, that the site is not known to contain historic or archaeological resources. 16, financial capacity, that the applicant has the financial capacity to carry out the project. 17, noise and lighting, that the facility will operate within the noise standards in town ordinances, and the applicant has no proposed lighting. Any comments or questions on that? All right, can I get a motion?
Also read in the conditions of approval.
Oh, yes, which happens with the motion?
With the motion.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I make a motion that we approve the project with the following three conditions. One, that the soil erosion control methods be employed if needed around the entire work area during clearing, excavation, if there is any, earthwork for leveling the building of the site and construction of the storage structure. Two, that as required by state law, Title 38, Section 439-B, any earthwork contractor hired for this project must be a person certified by the Maine DEP or by the Maine DOT in erosion control practices. And three, and you can change the wording of this, if the board can change the wording of this if they prefer, but that the town of Orono would in no way become responsible for the maintenance, upkeep, or removal of the structure.
Any questions on number 3? Everyone good with that? So second, can we get a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Okay. Thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda, B, is a proposed land use ordinance amendment to section 18-113, vernal pools overlay district, to make a few minor changes to satisfy the conditions of approval set by the Board of Environmental Protection that would give the town partial delegated authority to vernal pools. No one wants to.
This one isn't as intriguing, I guess.
No one cares about the vernal pool.
All right, and this one is not large. All right, so Kyle, you want to give a summary?
Sure. So this is a really small amendment to the existing vernal pools overlay district language that passed a couple years ago now. In April, Evan Rickard, and then I attended, we met with Maine DEP to submit our application for the partial delegated authority, which would allow the town to allow a developer to compromise a vernal pool within the growth area of the town, so long as they protected 2 vernal pools and a certain amount of space in the rural area in the forest and agriculture district. So the amendments to the ordinance here were conditions of approval from DEP. They're really just some minor things that were either already repeated in other places in the ordinance or weren't possible for us to say until we got that approval from DEP. So if you look at the 5 there, upon receipt of an application for a permit under this section, the town shall provide Department of Environmental Protection with timely notice of such receipt. Well, it wasn't possible until we got the approval to receive an application, so that couldn't go in there until now. The first one there, the provisions of this section apply only to land located within the vernal pools overlay district as shown on the official zoning map, and if the impact occurs within the vernal pool or within a 250-foot zone around the pool. If it's outside of that 250 feet, then the development can take place outside of that 250 feet without being considered as to compromising the vernal pool. So it's just some minor changes to kind of officially wrap this whole process up that's been ongoing for several years now.
All right, thanks, Kyle.
Yep.
So comments, questions from the board?
I guess I got a question. You said 250 feet?
Mhm.
But that's not adequate to protect the vernal pool.
I guess that's how it's
current
current.
statute, but I just want to be on record that
Okay.
that's not enough. You need 800 feet. In the SAMP program, you know, I guess that doesn't address that. The contractor does have the right to do that. So I understand.
Any other questions or comments? It seems pretty straightforward. Some additions and one strike. All right, let's open the public hearing. Go through it. It's like a lead stone. Any other board discussion? Over the motion to close it. Finding of fact, are we good with this? Just to take a vote, correct? To recommend?
Yeah, it would
agree
just
with
be a recommendation back to
Okay.
council for them to hold a public hearing.
So just make a motion to that effect.
Yes.
So can
I make a motion to that effect.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, that's passed. All right, so other new business is a review of the 2019 Micro Enterprise Assistance Grant Project. It consists of facade improvements to the Buyer Manufacturing Building at 74 Mill Street and determine whether the project is consistent with the goals and strategies of the town of Orono. And somebody, there he is going to give us a presentation or outline.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Oh, I've seen this before.
Good evening. My name is Dave Mylan. I am the Director of Community Development for the town of Orono, and I appreciate you taking the time to hear this evening. My goal, Dave, is to make sure I can get you out of here by 8 o'clock. So a community development block grant was, I applied for a grant to help replace a facade on the property at 74 Mill Street, owned by Buyers Manufacturing. And we recently learned that we were successful in getting that grant. It's a $50,000 grant that's leveraged by another $50,000. So we're talking about a $100,000 investment into the property to replace all of the windows and the siding on the Buyers building. If you've seen it, it's in need of such work. So part of the process, once we've been notified of that we have been selected to move on into the phase 2 portion of the application, it's about another 10 steps that I have to go through, hurdles that have to be jumped. And one of those hurdles is that it is a requirement by the planning board to determine that the activity that is identified in the grant application is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So what I have given you this evening is a copy of the page out of the comprehensive plan that on section 2, volume 2, strategy 3, it talks about the facade improvements and creating facade projects within the downtown area. So therefore, it is my belief that this application is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and I'm asking that the planning board consider, agreeing with that impression. I'm perfectly stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
So I have a quick question.
Sure.
So how does that work financially? Does the town match so much of that, or what's?
None. This is a community development block grant, is a HUD, Housing and Urban Development federal grant that goes through the state. There were 17, as I understand, there were 17 communities that applied for similar type applications. We were successful in getting that. So that $45,000 was the application that we asked for. It's a maximum of $50,000 per property. We applied for 45, we got the 45. That's all, 100% of that money comes from HUD, but it has to go through a municipality in order for a property owner. The property owner cannot apply for the funding on their own. it has to go through the municipality.
Thank you. That clarifies it.
It's a great program. I've been involved with it for almost 20 years, done many of these facade grants over the years. And every single one of them really make a big difference. And I think that if you look at a building in the downtown area, there's probably not one that's more deserving of such attention.
Who picks the siding and the facade? Who's picking what it looks like?
The owner does. We don't have a requirement as to what it is supposed to look like. There is a committee that the council identifies, can be the council themselves, that will look at the project and see what it is that is being proposed. And there is actually, and it's actually a good question. So there is an appeal process if the committee didn't like if they were looking at hot pink and chartreuse vinyl siding, then someone could make the argument. But I would tell you, my experience over the years has been, A, no one's done that. B, there really hasn't been much. It's pretty high threshold to overcome that type of an appeal. But there will be a committee that's identified by the council to look at all of the projects. In this particular, all of the project is one.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
A great question.
Any other questions for Dave?
Okay, so this grant provides half of the funds. Where do the other half of the funds come from?
Again, good questions. Comes from the property owner. The property owner has already, as part of the application, has committed those funds. And it's, as I say, it's a very thorough, this project's been around since the 60s. There have been hundreds of properties in the state of Maine that have been taken advantage of this specific facade project. So I can tell you is that the amount of work that I have to do, that this goes out to bid, that there are multiple steps that have to be done in order to ensure that it's being done above board, and it all has to be reported back to the state. So just this one project I'll have a 3-inch binder full of paperwork at the end of the year when I get audited by the Department of Economic and Community Development next year. They will want to know, again, everything. There's a federal program for wages called Davis-Bacon, and this is a Davis-Bacon project. So all of the work, when the owner got the estimates for the project, he had to explain that to the folks who potentially could bid on it, that it's a Davis-Bacon project, so that they know that they have to pay prevailing wages, national wages for anyone that's doing the work. So as I said, there's hundreds of rules that come with this. And as I like to tell anyone that applies for this, free money is never free. There's a lot of work to it, but in the end, if you're okay with going through all this whole process, it is an effective way to invest in the property.
What is the timing for the project?
It is the initial phase 2 application, which is what we're going through now, has to be completed within 3 months of 1st of June, middle of June. Once I get that done, they can't begin any work until we finish our part 2. So my guess is that will be, and a lot of it is, frankly, bureaucratic conditions. I got to send out letters to Inland Fish and Wildlife to make sure that there's no bird habitat, right next to the building or within a quarter of a mile of the property, right to the sand dunes folks to make sure it's not in the middle of a state sand dune. There's, like I said, there's number of ones to have to sign off on this. Maine Historic Preservation, I just received the letter back this week from Maine Historic Preservation, saying that they did not see it as a problem. And that's a big one, because that's caused me a lot of delays in the past for different projects. So once that happens and the phase 2 is completed, probably sometime late summer, then we can start putting it out to bid. So there's a formal bid process, review the bids. I think that the work that is that's being proposed, as I said, from the CDBG funds, we're looking at the applicant is looking to replace all of the windows in the building and all of the siding on 3 sides, not on the river side of the building, because a facade can only be on sides that can be seen from a street. So 3 sides of this particular building I could get included. What the owner is doing with his match part of it is putting in a new heating system in the building. So he can't begin that work until this phase 2 is done. He can't start using his funds until this part is approved as well. So he wants to be able to get that done. I only offer that because he wants to get it done before the heating season this fall. So I'm hoping that, if you're pulling all the windows out and putting new windows back in, and he's putting in blown in insulation in the walls, prior to putting the new siding on, that we're hoping to get that all done this fall. If for whatever reason there are any snags, then they would probably hold off and do the waiting till the 2020 building season, if it had to be. Either way, it's required from the time that we finish phase 2 and they give us the application. We've got 2 years to complete the project. Probably a lot of information for a really simple answer, but that's I hope I answered your question.
Do you have a question, Mike?
I think as a point of reference, it's pretty much what Old Town's been doing, right? With their Main Street.
I'm not, again, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. Ron Harriman is the Economic Development Director, my counterpart in Old Town, and Ron has always been known to be the king of CDBG grants. So wouldn't surprise me if he's utilizing that for the city of Old Town. We've done this here, and we previously did one before me. In 2012, you may remember that there were some projects, there was a similar grant that was at the town. I'd helped with a little bit of the application project when I was previously in Bucksport to help Orono get that one done. And Ron Harriman was he contracted to oversee Orono's to do that. I'm a certified CDBG administrator, so I can do it. It doesn't cost the town anything to oversee the grant.
Any other questions? So you're looking for us to make a motion to say that we agree.
Correct. I'm just looking to say that you agree that this is consistent with what what the comprehensive plan is saying that we should be doing.
So you want to vote?
Please.
I make a motion that we agree that this is consistent with the plan.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
All those in favor? So moved.
2 minutes to spare, David.
Well, we're not out yet.
I know, from my portion of it. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. All right. Item 6, discussion. Item 7, adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? All right.
8 o'clock.
Thank you.
Just for you.
That's right.